Hi guys, my name is Sophie Chambers, and we would like for you to follow our slides today. So there's a link here at the bottom, and you can type that in and get access to all of the slides we share, but also there's a lot of hyperlinks on those slides. So we would really encourage you to save this link for future use.
I'm Natalie Lamer. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I currently work in the 4th and 5th grade elementary building in Chillicothe.
And as I said before, I'm Sophie, and I'm our gifted instructor in Chillicothe for kindergarten through 8th grade. Natalie and I are co-presenting this session because I use a lot of these resources in my social emotional lessons with gifted students, but she also uses it with the general education population that she serves as a counselor. Our emails are on both slides, as well as our handles if you want to send us any questions or follow us. So first, we'd like to start with a few facts and figures of why we're presenting on social emotional. I'm sure a lot of you as teachers living in the trenches of day-to-day school understand, especially now more than ever with the COVID consequences, that we see a need for social emotional learning, but sometimes parents might question it, or admin might question, what if it's justified to use your time on SEL lessons. And here are some facts and figures you could give them or provide to parents interested. So we see that if you take the childhood trauma test that gives you an ACEs score, if your student has experienced one or more types of childhood trauma, that would occur in about half of our population have experienced at least one type of trauma. And then almost a fourth of them have experienced two or more, which then directly impacts their susceptibility for depression, anxiety, substance abuse, things like that. And so if you've never taken the ACEs score test, we would highly encourage you to look into it. You can find versions free online. And then it also shows you how the poverty level also directly correlates with the amount of trauma our kids are experiencing in that last fact and figure.
In addition to that, the Nadine Burke-Harris TED Talk is a great resource, and I encourage you to watch that. It's very informative just personally, but definitely when you're working with children and families. Some more facts and figures for you are that 4.5 million children, 3 to 17, have a diagnosed behavior problem. This won't surprise any of you who work with children, but not just their behaviors are difficult, but a diagnosable behavior problem. And then 4.4 million children, 3 to 17, have diagnosed anxiety. Again, this won't surprise you, but the anxiety that we're seeing, not only in adults, but in children, very young children, is increasing at a rapid rate. And then almost 2 million children have a diagnosed depression. So to combine that with the behaviors, the mental health concerns are getting bigger and bigger. So that leads us to the reason it's so important to have a strong social emotional learning curriculum, and also to have a lot of social emotional tools and strategies to use.
So now we'd like to start sharing with you the 10 tools we would recommend you look into using in your own classroom. We are going to have to break this video up into multiple segments. And so we're going to create a YouTube list. A YouTube playlist. So we hope you'll stick with us through all of our videos. Sorry, my lights shut off on a timer, so we're turning those back on. And so as we move through those 10 things in the different videos, we want to recognize that we tried to show you as many free and very affordable options as possible. But as we move from 1 to 10, we'll go from free to most expensive. So the ones that we get to towards the end, they are ones we actually wrote grants for and things like that, because we don't have a lot of funding to support our SEL lessons either. And we try to be really realistic about what you can provide your own students. So first, I'm going to talk about how we use YouTube. You might have noticed this if your school district was closed down in the spring, that YouTube is just full of lots of high quality student options for guided yoga, breathing, and mindfulness activities. So on this next slide, there are hyperlinks here that you can click on for different age groups of ones that I have used and recommend. They can be really short, just a few minutes. Maybe a good thing to do as you come in from recess to calm bodies, or in the morning to wake up bodies, or before a test or things like that. Kids usually don't know the term mindfulness and purposeful breathing. If you haven't actually talked about that, that's not something a lot of our kids hear or see at home. So these can be pretty engaging for kids because they haven't experienced this before.
A tool that we found very effective is brain gyms, and we have movements and dancing for cross brain connections. We learned from an occupational therapist that spoke to us the importance of having that connection, and how many of our students do not. They have not had the opportunity to build that before they got to us as an infant or toddler or even young elementary student. So to do some things that physically make you cross your body in the middle. So they would call that the midline. And that builds connections in the brain, which then make children more able to be ready to learn, retain what they learn, try new tasks. And the things that you see here are also done through that. But these can be formal things that you can just Google, look up, or some training you get, or you can just do it with an entire classroom.
Also, we have used our paras to help support this because our classroom teachers may not always have time. And so our paras might pull a population we know really need brain gym work, and they'll pull them once a day for like 10 or 15 minutes into like maybe an empty sped room or a little side office. And we train those paras through like one of our occupational therapists to really know how to do these properly. And there are links on the top of this slide that you can go find free resources for brain gyms, and then also a brain dance that younger kids might enjoy that does cross brain connections. I don't think your older kids would love that brain dance. It's more geared towards younger.
And one of the things that was informative for us and really sold us on brain gyms was when our occupational therapist talked about if students lack that core strength, that's the students that you see slouching in their chair or really being fidgety and not even having the ability, even when they want to pay attention to what you're teaching. So if they're spending all of their energy strengthening those muscles that they're weak in, they have no energy left to be learning, which is the purpose of them being there. So that these are not just choices. Sometimes when we see these behaviors like the slouching, the sliding out of the chair, the wiggling around, the fatigue, that those are actual physical problems that need a solution to be addressed.
And that was a major aha moment for me because I, as a teacher, always thought it was just rudeness or choice in the child, not thinking about, oh, did their parent not help them do enough tummy time or sit in a car seat too much or a bouncy seat too much and not build those core muscles? Like I never thought about the science behind it. And so I tried to become more understanding of how a student learns best. Maybe slouching is how their brain can focus because they're not so focused on just sitting up straight because I asked them to. So we're going to move on to our next 8 tools, and we hope that you will continue in the next few videos on our playlist. Sorry, I can't find the stop recording button. There we go.